Welcome to Bonsai Heirloom. I'm Milton Chang. I've been doing bonsai for 50 years, so I'd like to share with you what I learned the hard way. I figured out myself most of it, and by reading a lot of books and trying to extrapolate what they wrote. And this is a bonsai we had a video about 3 weeks ago, and everyone seemed to really love it because it's fairly unusual. But the question invariably in people's mind is how do I turn a tree into something like that? Seem like very, very old. Well, this is a tree I started from a seed 25 years ago. And of course, this is probably 5 years later from a seed. You can buy this from a nursery, and that's what it is, some few sticks. And how do you turn this tree into something like that? So first of all the rootage is because I planted the tree in the ground. I was too busy with my work building startup companies, and therefore I put it in the ground so that there's a little less care of me. It required less care of me. And of course the roots just spread out and grow. And when I took it out, I washed off the soil and tried to play with these roots to help me design my tree. And so this tree is by no means kind of spread out, like in a sense that it's not turning like this, but you make it to look like that after you expose the roots. So then the question is that how do I turn this tree into this? First of all, there's a kind of turning here everywhere, right? Every angle there's a turn. And as I said last time, the turning is by cutting off the straight trunk growing up straight. I cut it off, and then this branch took over, and then this branch took over, and then they became what it is today. And that also introduces the natural taper, because as the tree grows out, it thickens the bottom, thickens less of the top. So let me begin by saying this. Here's a tree with a trunk and straight up, but if you look at it from this angle, this is a tree that will give you a turn if you cut off this one, right? So that is what I would do. So since this is a demonstration, I'll try to work on a couple of styles to give you an idea of different ways of doing the same tree, depending on what you envision the tree to be. So the first tree I want to do is a straight up tree, more like a tree you see in a park. And I think this would be a right height. And so I would simply cut it off right here. This would be a little bit of a challenge with this small cutter, but if I struggle a little bit, it would do. Right, I purposely does not try to make a clean cut so that it looks more natural breaking off. And so what's going to happen is that this is going to be an apex coming up, become part of a top branch, and these two will be on the side. And of course the side will never be as tall as the top, so I cut them off. And then of course you have this tree, so maybe here, you see I cut off this one because I don't want a branch to go that way, but I cut it here so that the branch will go out this way, right here. Right, you can see the butt right here come out of this way. And then this one, maybe I cut it off here. See, so the three are not the same height. See, so when you do a tree, you don't want too much symmetry. So if you imagine 5 years from now in this pot, the trunk will be about this size, right? And then these will be about this size. And so that the height of this height will be about right. And you see, notice that did not cut any of these branches to be fairly similar height, rather to try to destroy make it asymmetrical so that it would look more artistic. And I also cut these branches lower because you don't want the side to be taller than the top. I think that's pretty much it, because you should cut off less than cutting off more, because you can always cut later. But I think this is still too tall, and I can cut out a lot more drastically for this particular tree, which will be two branches coming out, filling out here, and then a big centerpiece right here. Now let's talk about how do I turn this tree into this tree. I want the turn to occur too high. So if I cut it off here, even cut it down here, this would be about where this is, right? So let me cut off this one here. I purposely cut it rough, not nice cut, because then when it heals, it doesn't look like somebody took a chainsaw and cut it. This branch cutter is a very useful tool in bonsai. You can use it to make dead wood and for cutting thick branches like this. And then you can use it really more or less for carving as well. And they're very solidly built. It's almost indestructible, and I prefer the stainless steel one, so much less maintenance. You see, it's very brutal. You're not trying to do a careful job so that it looks contrived and unnatural, because it will heal over and you can still cut it off additional cutting, do additional cutting to make it look natural. So there you go. I worry a little bit about it because this looks a little sticking out. So I just cut it more. And I cut it to make it less of a circle, like more of an oval, or even, kind of in fact, I pull it to break it, to make it look like a tree branch broken off. See, this would look very natural. See, look at that. This would be really natural. And you can take a look at it a few years from now. So this is the base, and this branch is this branch, right? It's up on top. And then this branch goes out to the side. That's this branch. And I can worry about that later, let it grow out and then play with it, right? So with that in mind then, I just let this grow up because they grow faster when they're more branching. But this one, I want it to go out on the side. Now, one drastic thing is I can take this bud. It will go out here, but I think that's a little bit too drastic. Let me just for sure do it now by cutting it right here. So this branch will come out like this. Just like this branch comes out like that, right? And I wouldn't worry too much about that's a little high, because this bud can easily come out and be like this, just like this one here. See, so let me just for now, I favor this bud to fill out this hole rather than this one to make two dents on this side. So I just cut it right here. There you go. So this one, it's now coming out like this, and it will grow out like that. Right, so you can play with it. So this is the beginning of this tree, more or less. I chopped up this tree. You can see this will have a nice scar, which now looks very bad, but I think you'll love it. And then drawing the analogy between these two trees, this branch will be this one, and this one here will be this one, although it's up a little ways first. But it's quite possible this branch, this little bud will come out, and to send out a shoot like that, which would be exactly like this. I mean, I can literally duplicate this tree to become like that. Although I prefer not to, I'd rather let it grow naturally and do something different each time. Now this trunk is straight up, but you can see there are a lot of buds, a lot of branching. So what's going to happen is that this branch is thicker than anything else, right? So this branch will become the thickest. And so I have a choice. For example, if I tilt it a little bit, I can start to make this one the apex. So it's like, just like this one, and I can cut it until it branches a lot. Again, if I had to be self-critical, I think I was preoccupied with forming these branching. The next thing I should do, I finally figured out to make it look really nice is to let these grow long shoots and then cut it like this rather than get it real close. So that I think in another year, I think you will find this tree to be incredibly beautiful. And this tree in 5 years will look very respectable. And I would say in 5 years, or 10 years for that matter, it would be really a showcase. And you'll be very proud of it. But the point is that you have to be patient. Bonsai is a never-ending living art. It never ends. You never say, I finished a bonsai, because you can continue to improve on it based on your own vision and your own ability. You know, again, I learned it the hard way. I killed a lot of trees, did things that really didn't work, but I think I'm finally have figured out, and I'd like to share with you. And I hope you like the video and subscribe to it and get notification so that when I do the new posting, you will get to view them. To follow these trees, and frankly, if you follow this tree in 5 years, you'll be pretty darn close to this. Not quite a stick, of course. And then I will have to take it out of the growing pot, this time not putting in the growing ground, which will be even faster. But I'll start to play with the roots so that I got this part to play with. But right now, it's not obvious. So thank you very much.